Welcome back, Elder Scrolls Legends fans. We are here for the grand finals of the Elder Scrolls Legends Master Series here at QuakeCon. We have Boomslife going up against Thuldir. Man, this has been such a great day.
It certainly has. I don't think we really could have asked for a better final, but all 8 players were fantastic throughout the day. So there was really no wrong result here.
Speaking of all 8 players, we're going to take a quick look at the bracket so we can see just exactly how these 2 finalists managed to find their way into the last round. Thuldir taking it over Flo and Karakon Jewel in some very, very tough matches. Boomslife going through Frenzy and Super Thanks to manage his way through here. This has been a lot of really, really, really great games. Any highlights for anybody?
I mean, I just think it's cool that both semifinals ended in 3-2 victories.
Yeah.
That was really close. Both series could have gone either way. We could have had any combination of finalists out of those. But yeah, I think overall, I've been really excited to see, decks like the Empire that Thuldir brought. Very excited to see that again. Just sort of the outliers that only got brought once in the entire series. Yeah, I think it's been cool to see those compete with the likes of Battle Mage and Guildsworn.
Right on. So for the last time today, let's take a look at some of these deck lists. We're going to start off with a list from Boomslife. He has been on some more controlling lists. He started off with that Guildsworn list that we just saw pivot for him into the Aggressor in the last game. This has been a really, really fun deck for me to watch just because it can play so many different ways.
Yeah, I don't think Boomslife has a lineup like anyone else's here at the event. A lot of people have played it a little bit safer, but decks like this with even the Seducer Darkfire tech, it's definitely different from most other Guildsworn decks you'll see.
Yeah. And Charmer, you want to talk to me a little bit about this Ebonheart Pact deck and how it may function against Thuldir?
Yeah, so Ebonheart struggled during the last series because it was up against Dagoth, which has a lot of very resilient, sticky threats that have the ward package to survive against it. Against Thuldir, when you have decks like Halalu and Empire, you don't have the wards involved. So in any of the series today, this one actually might be the best positioned for this Ebonheart list. I actually think that Boomslife might get a lot of value out of it in this matchup.
And Silverfuse, how do you feel about the Dagoth list? This is one that we've seen be relatively successful throughout the day for various different people. Boomslife running it himself. Do you think it's going to be able to do its thing and overrun decks like it wants to do against Thuldir's lineup?
I've always just loved Swift Strike mid Dagoth. The ability it has to play defensively and then just kind of pivot all of a sudden. The just utility of it is amazing. It can do well against decks that try to go under it, and can also just present mid-range threats that do well against control too.
Yeah. And last but not least, Boomslife is running that Control Tribunal. Did a lot of work versus Super Thanks. A very, very heavy list in terms of removal. Lots of responsive threats. Also running those 3 copies of Seducer Darkfire. I wonder if there's anything that he's really, really going to want to target with those Seducers away from any of the decks that Thuldir's bringing. Maybe Divine Fervor could be a consideration against the Empire list, something like that.
Yeah, I think it really just depends on the stage of the game it sees play. I mean, we've seen him play Seducer Darkfire with a bunch of different targets over the course of the day so far. So, I mean, we'll see if he's potentially inches away from death. You just call whatever might kill you. And if it's earlier in the game, you call whatever your opponent's best play is. And
Yeah,
hope it works out, I think.
And on the other side, we have Thuldir's list. We have some really cool ones. Speaking of the Empire list, I think that is probably the one that everyone's got eyes on as the most atypical in his lineup. But we see he does have that mid-battle mage that he's been running as well.
Yeah, it was actually interesting because only one person in the finals has mid-battle mage. Boomslife was one of the 2 players who didn't bring it. So of the 2 players, we have 7 different classes, with Guildsworn being the only static one between both lineups.
Now
battle mage is pretty straightforward.
That is a fun fact, CVH.
It is a fun fact.
It is a fun fact. So for me, I think that, we keep talking about this Empire list, but there's a reason. It's not just because he's the only one who brought it. It has not lost yet
It's
today.
so good.
It's been very, very well positioned in this tournament, and I really think that it's a strong list, but it might struggle against this Ebonheart list. And again, Boomslife the only one who brought Ebonheart, so both of them with this kind of like unique thing in each of their lineups. I think that potential matchup might actually decide the series.
Do you think it struggles more against Ebonheart than it would against the Guildsworn?
I think that it does, because when you're trying to establish your early game, many of your creatures all have like 1 health or 1 or 2 health. So cards like Skaven Pyromancer or just the crossbows, even without the lethal package, can still control the board.
And Silverfuse, you and I have been casting tournaments with House Halalu lists for working on a year now. You gotta have some insight for me on this one.
I mean, Halalu has just been considered a strong deck. It's gotten a few nerfs throughout the last year, but it is just a solid deck overall. It can go under some of these more mid-range and aggro decks. So I think that's what Thuldir was considering, that people would be playing a lot of Alfiq decks. And as Charmer said multiple times, the best way to counter Alfiq is to go right under it, where a 3/4 guard doesn't do anything for you.
Yeah, put it in a position where it doesn't matter, even if it does come down. Lastly, Thuldir, like you were saying, is running the Guildsworn class in common with Boomslife, is running a little bit different list, doesn't have the Seducer Darkfires. Anything jumping out at any of you about this list in particular over the course of the day?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely plays a little bit different to Boom's Life. It's running a few different cards. You know, it actually has Alfie Conjures and things like that, whereas Boom's Life has gone for, it looks like a little bit different of an approach there. But yeah, no matter how you build it, Guildsworn has proven to be a really solid, versatile deck that can be an aggressor, be a defender, and sometimes just rage for a bunch of damage and end the game that way.
All right, well, players are ready to get on stage. We've taken a look at the list. Let's take a look at them and welcome them onto the stage with us. Two more players left in this bracket in the finals competing for their shot at a $50,000 prize pool, winner taking $20,000. If that's on the line, let's talk band strategies. You have one deck that you think is going to keep you from that prize pool. What do you take away? CVH, let's start with you.
Oh man, that's a tough one. You know, given the nature of the matchups as Charmer discussed, I'd be pretty tempted to look at the Ebonheart as a potential problem, but honestly, I think I'd probably target the Guildsworn. It's just been proven to be powerful over and over, and Boomslife did say it is his most popular, or most powerful deck in his own opinion. So I'd probably go with that if I were Thuldir. If I were Boomslife, I don't really know. I mean, Empire, maybe he didn't test against it as much, but it has done really well over the course of the day, so maybe just based on that, he's on a hot streak.
Yeah, and reversing order for one time. Charmer, let me hear your thoughts.
As far as band strategy goes, I think both players strongly consider Guildsworn. Boomslife has said that he thinks it's his best deck in his lineup, and that means he also is going to respect somebody of Thuldir's caliber who's playing it, and he might want to take that away from him. And I also just like the way his lineup matches against Thuldir's more aggressive lineup with the other decks, right? Like I said, I think his Ebonheart does well against Halalu. I think his Ebonheart does well against the Empire deck, so I think you just get rid of the Guildsworn because you don't want to deal with it.
Well, I cheated and talked to Boomslife already, so I know he said, I do not want to see that Empire. Thuldir has been winning all day with it, and I'm not going to let him continue that. So he's banning that. Sorry to spoil it. And then as Thuldir, I would ban also the Guildsworn every single time, where you've seen it perform very well, and just Rage Guildsworn, like I said, it's done well. You got to respect it.
Well, the bans have been locked in. Let's throw that graphic up and see what the choices have been. It will be Tribunal Temple banned away from Boomslife and the Empire deck banned away from Thuldir. Thuldir, the Empire deck will go undefeated all day, no matter how this series ends up.
Absolutely. I was just about to say, so regardless of how it goes, Empire undefeated at the Masters Series Finals.
I'm pretty happy with that, and I have to imagine Empire Oathman is too.
Absolutely. You know what I'm happy about? That I have one last chance to ask you all the hardest question of the day. Let's get some predictions. Silverfuse, who is going to be the QuakeCon Master Series 2019 champion?
I'm going to have to go with Thuldir with a 3-2 victory. I think it's going to be close.
3-2 Thuldir?
I think Thuldir is going to take this series.
Thuldir?
I'm going to go Boomslife 3-2 because I bet on him before, and he hasn't failed me yet.
There we go. So 3-2s across the board, split slightly on who's going to come out on top. Thuldir, everyone's saying they're so afraid of him. He's such a good player. He's such a nice guy. really makes it even worse when you lose to someone so nice, because you're just like, let
Can't
me
be
hate you
mad
for
at 'em.
1 second.
Yeah, this is such a cool matchup because these two guys, they met in the first qualifier, but they've been friends for a long time before that. They've both been playing Legends since, I imagine 2016 for Thuldir as well, but they're both longtime competitors, good friends, and they've played against each other in high-level tournaments a good bit. So we'll see who comes out on top this time, if Boomslife can take revenge for qualifier 1, or if it's Thuldir yet again, continuing his streak.
Let's also remember, after this game, that doesn't mean we're done. We still have a little bit of talking to do. You're not quite done seeing our faces until after that. We're going to have a little bit of time to present the trophy, interview the winner, and talk about how the day went, so don't go anywhere after the game is done. There is still plenty left to do. I believe the players are in the client. They are working on getting in-game shortly. Any final sweeping remarks to have about this matchup before we get in?
Well, I'm surprised Guildsworn is unbanned on Boomslife's lineup, but the Tribunal deck has also been incredibly terrifying to watch, and kind of demoralizing to play against in some ways with the triple Dawn's Wrath. So I can kind of understand Thuldir's reluctance to play against it.
Yeah, I'm shocked that Empire got banned, even though it did perform very, very well. I don't think that if it had went 5-0 earlier today, that would have been the choice.
I think so too.
Last thoughts are in. Decks are locked in. Game is starting. Casters, one last time. Let's get into this series. Good luck, everyone.
Thank you so much, Laser. We are in it, and Boomslife is on the Dagoth. Thuldir looks to be on Battle Mage.
Yeah.
And he is still mulliganing. There we go.
There we go. Yeah, so Boomslife here, great opener off the ring, but the other choices in hand a little bit clunky. Kalalu Sharpshooter is typically reactive. Cliff Racer comes down a little bit later. Meanwhile, Thuldir has a great curve. You've got 2, 3, 4, and then as I've said a few times today, Temple Conjurer is secretly a 5-drop.
Yeah, it's a 5-drop that can sometimes be a really bad 2-drop. But it looks like he might actually be a 5-drop this time. And there's a Mournhold Trader for Boomslife. Probably something he's happy to see here.
Of course, I'm on your side.
Yeah, I like that Mournhold Trader a lot because it allows you to follow up the following turn with Awakened Dreamer and a dagger so that you can start getting larger. The downside, however, is that we know Thuldir just found a Lightning Bolt, and that's going to be a good answer for the Mournhold Trader.
Looks like Boomslife here deciding to push some damage and then activate this Awakened Dreamer because Mournhold Trader is now a 5-power creature, but never mind. Looks like he will go ahead and take the tome away from the Daggerfall instead.
Yeah, I'm a bit surprised by that. Typically, when I know that I'm going to be the aggressor, I don't mind if my opponent gets the tome because I'm giving them a bunch of cards anyway. But Boomslife just really wants to take away the ward value from that Daggerfall.
Here's
Yeah.
the Battle Mace.
I was also expecting just trying to develop creatures and be the aggressor here, but decided to want to slow it down a bit.
Now, Boomslife could still pretty easily take over the field lane, but that's a 6-1 Daggerfall Mage in the Shadow lane, looming with the potential to deal a good amount of
My
damage.
magnificent monster.
And no Candy Crush, Cradle Crush Giant in the hand for the future to deal with the Shadow, which would be pretty much the best answer he could find for next turn.
Yeah, notably, Boomslife is only playing 2 Cradle Crush, so it's not the most likely scenario. And of course, this is an aggressive Dagoth deck, not running the likes of Skaven Pyromancer, Rapid Shot, no Firebolts for sure. And Rally on the Manic Jack. I'm sure you would have rather seen Drain, but Rally can also help his aggression. And that is a Prophecy Harpy. Come down and switch the tempo around really quick.
Yeah, gonna deny 2 damage here, give you a body in that Shadow lane, setting up that Cliff Racer next turn very, very nicely because you can use that to trade into the guard, and that frees up the Harpy to trade into the Daggerfall. But the placement telegraphs a bit, so Thuldir knows it's coming, still decides, I don't want that Manic Jack to get out of control.
And this board is pretty firmly under Boomslife's control right now with the Cliff Racer still alive at 2 health. But Thuldir has an ample supply of creatures he can develop. Maybe we see Doomfang ally Daggerfall, something like that.
I was thinking the potential of this Temple Conjure, and then in the future being able to play the Mighty Conjuring after.
Hey, maybe Doomfang just rolls Strength for once. It doesn't.
It
Roll
does,
both.
but I like this because I think right now Thuldir is properly recognizing that he is the reactive player. He is not the beatdown. So Both of these threats have the ability to trade into the existing ones on Boomslife board and leave a body behind. This is how you slowly put yourself in a position to wrestle control back in your favor. And while the Temple Conjurer would have activated Mighty Conjuring, it would have had to survive. If Boomslife would have answered with his own Lightning Bolt, for example, you would have just shut that out.
I would like to point out that Thuldir did take the time to go into the Master's account setup with his decks and change his title to the Smart. I think that's kind of cool.
It's the sort of thing that a smart person would do.
Yeah, it's accurate.
A James Bond villain, as I keep referring to him.
It's a mind game. We're gonna see the ring as well, just to fully populate this board.
I mean, there's some consideration. The Dreamer doesn't activate, but just getting another body out there can be very, very relevant when you're trying to essentially push Thuldir out of the game before his big threats become relevant.
Yeah, it's tough to do, but Boomslife saying you can't kill them all.
Now, this Magister that was just picked up by Thuldir off the Rapid Shot is a really big deal. It's very relevant because it trades well. It's a big body, but it's also the closest thing to life gain that Battle Mage really has. So when you're trying to stabilize, getting that ward to protect you is very relevant.
Yeah, not only does he have the Wardcrafter already in hand to reward it, but it even activates the Mighty Conjuring if he wants to play that on the following turn.
Yeah, and it being a very good way to get rid of this lethal creature on board as well, without just using resources. But he's hovering the Alfiq right now, trying to decide if that is the best play or not, trying to just get some guards up from the start.
Yes, this is a bit interesting. I mean, theoretically, the 3/4 guard does soak up more damage than just the face ward. Face ward only protects you for 2. So he's kind of taking the gamble and saying, okay, Boomslife only has 1 card in hand. He's not likely to have something that gives him a value trade here, so he's going to have to lose the lethal Doomfang ally.
And speaking of, we haven't really talked about the fact that Corner Club Gambler is going to come down not even having to discard a card, and it doesn't look like Thuldir has an answer, so Boomslife might just be refilling his hand very soon.
As well as, Thuldir might have held the Telvos Magister earlier because it is a 1-of in the deck, so it is a resource that once it's gone, it's gone. So being able to use it just kind of as a block at the end to potential swing the game is important as well.
Thuldir takes this trade, and now he has to figure out a way to contest this very imposing field lane, because not only is it a bunch of bodies, but that Gambler, again, is going to be drawing some cards for Boomslife, giving him more resources.
You really have to hope, if you're Thuldir, that one of those cards is an Earthbone Spinner.
And we wait with bated breath, and that is not the case. However, Enraged Dragonite has the potential to be huge here. Not only is it extra reach, but it's going to self-break a rune.
Yeah, maybe
and
you could
that's going
find
to give
Earthbone.
Boomslife another card draw.
I will be triumphant.
Interesting to see this as one of the cards that Boomslife gravitated towards from Moons of Elsewhere, but not a whole lot of other people playing it. Let's see if it pays off here. Draws the Cradle Crush Giant, but it doesn't look like that's going to help him much in the field lane against this Atronach. The trade is unpleasant, but it probably has to be done.
Yeah, I expect that we're going to see both Razra and the Withered Hand come down off the final ring charge as he just pivots back and forth. It's kind of interesting. Booms was heavy in the shadow lane, then he went heavy into the field, now he's back in the shadow. He's kind of making Thuldir chase him all around the board.
And we haven't seen a whole lot of cost increases from Withered Hand Cultist. Again, it's coming down at a time when both of these are very creature-oriented hands. And all these 3 things have cover, so... I mean, do you just make a guard and give it ward and see how that goes?
I think you play the Luzra with the Alfiq and just set up a set up lethal for next turn.
Oh yeah, both players are actually kind of close to lethal in their own way.
Thuldir hovering over that Luzra, just like Silverfuse mentioned.
And it does give it, the Alfiq itself, 6 health, which is really annoying and pretty much locks Boomslife out of having lethal with any 2 cards here, if I'm thinking of them correctly.
Yeah, and
Swift
he
Strike
knows from
plus-
earlier that there wasn't a silence, or else we would have seen that on the Lava Atronach. So knowing that Boomslife has to top deck a silence to be able to deal with it.
Yeah, I think he would need to have exactly like Sentinel Battle Mace and a Swift Strike here to have a real shot at lethal. We already know one of those cards is not either one of those. God, that's huge.
The interesting thing is, even with a silence, right now it's not enough damage.
Prowl Smuggler is not it.
And all of a sudden, it looks like Thuldir may have stabilized and set himself up for a potential lethal push. Now, Boomslife could hit some life-saving prophecies along the way, but Thuldir, with that tome in hand, if the 9/7 is attacking, it will skip 2 runes.
Oh, yeah. On top of that, having Abner Tharn to be able to use something as well with the tome, that's a lot of extra damage on this Luzra.
Cradle Crush is going to come down here, and Boomslife will be able to clear a little bit of the Shadow Lane up. Definitely Alfie Conjures Marked for Death, the 3/1 Doomfang ally, and the 5/3 Atronach are easy pickings, but there's still a 9/7 and a 6/7 that do not have a clean answer.
Yeah, I mean, you can clear a bunch of these threats out here, but again, it's going to come down to when this Luzzer attacks next turn, do you get a life-saving prophecy, something like a Shrieking Harpy, off of this first rune? Because
And again,
otherwise, that's
Boomslife-
just going to be the game.
Boomslife only playing 2 Harpies. You know, a card like Lightning Bolt's not going to get it. Well, I mean, unless he decides not to. He actually could give himself, the Lightning Bolt out.
He does give himself the Lightning Bolt out. That's a very heads-up play.
So the
So-
first rune needs to be Lightning Bolt or Harpy, right?
Yeah, it comes down to this attack right here. And that is going to be it for Thuldir. He has turned it around, and he will go up 1-0 in this series.
Battle Mage putting in work, 11 power at once. Wow. I kind of like that, you know, he kind of recognized, yeah, I can't really rely on Harpy. I don't run that many of them, so let's make it, if I only have 1 rune break, let's give it 5 potential outs there. Because, hey, even if I do get the Harpy, there's a chance that he finds a way to sort of bypass that or something. But it didn't work out this time. Got the Pawnbroker instead, and Dagoth is eliminated. So now Boomslife is down to the unbanned decks of Ebonheart and Guildsworn. What do you queue up if you're Boomslife going into this Battle Mage?
Personally, for me, I think that I would queue up the Guildsworn because while I like Ebonheart in this series, I don't like it against the Battle Mage. I like it against Halalu, for example. So I think that you queue up Guildsworn, and Boomslife appears to agree with me.
Worth noting, these are not both Alfie Conjurer decks, so they're on a slightly different game plan. You know, Boomslife in his Guildsworn deck decided to take a different route, and his 6 drops are Cradle Crush, Thadon, and Apex Wolf.
Yeah, Apex Wolf has the potential to be a real difference maker here because not only does it provide drain, but whatever you draw from it also gets drained. So sometimes you can give one of your other threats a massive comeback tool. If it lands on something like Belligerent Giant, for example, it's a very big deal.
And it's not like Battle Mage is full of 1-for-1 removal, so actually dealing with the Apex Wolf and the Wolf's target can be a pretty tall order.
Now, the one downside to the Guildsworn matchup here is that you do have cards like Skaven and Cradle Crush, but sometimes they come back to haunt you when your opponent plays Breton Conjurer, and we know that that's a big part of the mid-Battle Mage game plan.
And already in Thuldir's hand.
And no execute for Boomslife here to easily deal with the Staggerfall Mage. Instead, we'll be forced to make a trade or for the tome to go off one way or the other.
See how Boomslife decides to do it.
Careful there, friend.
Definitely playing it. He's going to ward up the guard, smack for 1 point of damage.
Yeah, now, sequencing, this is a very heads-up play. You don't want to ward that and then break Daggerfall's ward on your own because then you're giving up your 1-2 guard the following turn. Let him attack into you, break that ward, and then you can hopefully answer back with your Ward Crafter, but this Skaven denies that game plan.
Thuldir taking control of the field lane for now. Hey, there's Apex Wolf. We were just talking about it. And a Skaven to answer the first Skaven. Maybe a Tome to answer this Skaven. The player is just going back and forth in the field lane here.
It's entirely possible. You could do something like Tome, you could do something like Lightning Bolt, or if you really wanted to be aggressive, you could have, for example, used Harpy just to slow him down, and then also used your ring to develop an ally. There's a lot of options there.
Do you think Thuldir should put himself as the aggressor in this situation? What do you think, Silverfuse?
I think he definitely has to be the aggressor, but he does have to pay respect to the prophecies that can happen. We've seen what Guildsworn can do prophecy-wise, so he has to be very careful about how he navigates, if he goes face or not. So generally, I think he wants to develop a pretty strong board and then hope to go face, but he does also have to mind Rage too.
I'll say that's the 3rd time I've seen Cloud Rest execute combo. I think I've seen that combo more so in this one event than I did in any of the qualifiers combined. Maybe it's just because Cloud Rest has all of a sudden resurged in popularity.
Yeah, well, I think too, the first two qualifiers we had, almost no one played Guildsworn. There were very, very few people. And the second two, it got a lot more popular. So people figuring out that, hey, this is still pretty strong overall.
So in this scenario, Thuldir has a lot of potential options, right? He has what I call tall threats, very big singular threats that do a lot of damage. The downside, though, is that Boomslife has a lot of one-for-one answers in hand and available in the deck in the form of the Javelin that he just used, the ones in his hand, Unstoppable Rage, etc. So I think for the next few turns, we're going to see Thuldir develop a threat or two and then Boomslife answer.
Thuldir deciding to go for Doomfang, which I think has pretty reliably procced ward every time we've seen it. And that is it. Not going to use the Harpy for this. Maybe saving that for a drain that he doesn't want to have go off. But we're getting into some dangerous turns now. Oh, Boomslife actually taking a bit of damage here, breaking a rune, and then developing Apex Wolf, which might just eat a Lightning Bolt, maybe Belligerent Giant, though. That's looking pretty good.
You know, it's interesting because during his interview, Boomslife said, I knew to be the aggressor when I was on my Guildsworn list when he missed a play. When he had a lackluster turn, it told me his hand was clunky. That last turn, only the ally got played, and despite having a bunch of cards, Thuldir did nothing else, and Boomslife immediately became the aggressor again. It's like he says, okay, if your hand is clunky, I want to take advantage of that. You smell blood in the water. I wonder if that was a bit of a bait by Thuldir.
We're looking at a pair of Apex Wolves right now. And Unstoppable Rage is already in Boomslife's hand.
It'll be interesting to see what Thuldir decides to do here, if he wants to go more for development or just remove these wolves. Really, they could kind of just draw anything too, so you don't know if you give yourself a worse threat to deal with in the future.
Yeah, something like Mighty Conjuring looks like it could be pretty tempting here, but we can see another Javelin already in Boomslife's hand.
Yeah, I think that this is the right call by Thuldir, even if it's not going to work out, just because, you know, Boomslife has already played one Javelin, and if he doesn't have another one, or if he doesn't have some other immediate answer, then you're potentially trying to combat the value those wolves generate, because you don't have silence for them. So when they die, they're going to give more cards to Boomslife. You have to try to create 2-for-1s or better value out of it, so I think that was the right call, even if it didn't work out.
Boomslife gets Drain on one of his largest creatures. I like that he already has that classic Ravenous Hunger Rage combo in his hand. For those who don't know, Ravenous Hunger gets Drain when you play it in a lane that has opposing creatures, and you can simply Rage on it and deal 4 draining damage to all of your opponent's team in that lane.
That Seducer Darkfire has the potential to be a huge pickup for later, because playing it and naming something like 7, you shut out Mighty Conjuring, you shut out Belligerent Giant, and you're going to have a 7/7 on the board as well.
Yeah, meanwhile,
He
Boomslife doing
self-fix too.
Yeah, it does. Boomslife doing a great job at staying above 30 life. So I think we're going to start seeing some Alfiques developed.
Yeah, Thuldir is hovering over it. Again, you mentioned it before, Belligerent Giant might also be tempting at some point. But
Drain on another relatively large body.
yeah, I like this call because you're trying to clear up the board, and you know you have to get back into it, so you might as well do so with Elfie Conjurer. Again, our kitty count goes up even further for the day.
Lost track entirely at this point, but it's a lot. So again, the Hunger Rage drains for 12 here if he wants, but of course doesn't deal too well with the Storm Atronach.
Yeah, I almost wonder if Boomslife says, I don't think you have enough to kill me. I can still drain for 12 afterwards.
like
Maybe
he's
he
considering
develops
it.
in the Shadow Lane and then tries to do the Rage clear the following turn.
Yeah, I mean, I do like the really heads-up play you mentioned of Darkfire naming 7. Like, we know it because of Caster Vision, but that would work out quite well here. And you could even pair a nice little Grey Viper Brigand with it as well.
Yeah, I mean, you could potentially just take the damage here, develop your Seducer, counting on the drain back, right? Because Seducer
Yeah.
got drain itself.
It's only 15. Like,
Yeah,
it's not 30.
It's not 30.
It's not 29.
And again, it's a greedy play. Maybe that's why Boomslife is hesitating because he said, I got punished a few times
Yeah.
for taking the greedy play. But in this particular scenario, that greedy play could result in you gaining 19 health the following turn while also developing the 7/7. But learning
This
from
is
his
neither play.
mistakes.
This is a less greedy line. Nice little wolf again. How many Apex Wolves this game?
It's all of them, I think. I think it's all 3.
Yeah.
The downside is while this is the conservative line, this is also the one that's most likely to punish him. Thuldir has great tools in hand for trading into these. He's got that lesser ward, just picked up on Kano. I don't think that this is going to be enough for Boomslife to contest this properly.
It's definitely tricky. Apex Wolf eats some more damage. Daggerfall, less of a fantastic drain target. But still, the Apex Wolf allows him to cycle.
And now Thuldir can develop the Elfiq in the other lane as well. Go ahead, make another 7/5, and I think Boomslife might kick himself a little bit later for not taking the greed play. I know he was punished earlier, but
Yeah, now there's a lot of damage. All of a sudden, we're very close to actually lethal.
Yeah, once Thuldir saw that Kano come up from the top deck, he has to feel a lot more comfortable knowing that he has that 5 damage of reach just waiting for him, along with a lightning bolt too. That is 9 damage just sitting in his hand, ready to go.
and Boomslife is unfortunately still in the same position he was before, where you can play the Hunger and Rage, but you still don't clear the entire field lane. And now you get even less health out of it in this. Well, you still get 12.
All right, so is Darkfire going to call something that could potentially kill him? Or is it going to call Belligerent Giant? Because even if he doesn't die, Boomslife probably would die on the following turn if the Belligerent Giant happens. Very tough turn. Channeled Storm can clear a little bit if he doesn't want to commit to a full Rage play.
Yeah, overall, just a really tough spot for Boomslife here.
He's going to play this Daggerfall so that he at least gets some value, I think, out of this Oathman. He wants the Forked Bolt. That's maybe setting him up for the Rage clear next turn. Nope,
I
just gonna
actually
pull the
like this
damage
a
off.
lot. The Forked Bolt giving the Empower bonus to Channeled Storm and clearing up a pretty substantial amount of this, reducing Thuldir's board to 17.
Thuldir picks up another form of reach in the form of Sentinel Battle Mace.
Oh, I think he's one off lethal. There's 17 on board and 8 in the hand for Thuldir. If he uses the Battle Mace and the Lightning Bolt, he could deal 25 damage this turn.
I think I might still be inclined to take that risk because you've got Kano in hand,
Just
and
go
you're
for
going to have
25.
2 giant warded creatures, one in each lane. If you throw that mace on your other 7/5,
Oh, here we go. This is an interesting situation. In one hand, we have pretty much all the burst you could want. And then for Boomslife, we just have like 6 drain creatures.
Oh,
They're multiplying.
that changes things very, very much.
That is a lot of drain in one lane.
That is a big yikes.
Not only
That's
a
what
lot
that
of
is.
drain, but it's a lot of damage. If Boomslife top decks some like form of reach, now Thuldir is going to slow it down with the giant, but if he had top decked some form of reach, he might have been able to turn around and win in return.
That was a very interesting. I don't think I've seen that many golden initiates pop off so easily before.
I think
Is Storm
Thuldir is going to
Astronaut
stall here.
coming?
I don't think he's going to take the swing with the 7/5 after.
Yeah, I don't think you ever take the swing here. Breaking 2 runes, the likelihood of hitting a Javelin or a Cloud Rest or something is incredibly scary.
All
Very
right,
heads
so
up.
some drain can happen here, and Boomslife does have the ability to clear that Storm Atronach on the right with the Daggerfall Mage giving a tome to the Golden Initiate. That would only be 4 Magicka for the turn, so Seducer Darkfire would still be on the table. But there's still just a ton of damage. It seems like it's never ending, and there's still 9. Even though the Lightning Bolt has been expended, there's still an additional 9 from Thuldir's hand.
Part of me actually wonders if we might see him not take the tome.
Like,
does-
not use the tome?
Yeah, yeah, he's gonna take it. He's got to deal with that field lane still somehow. This cleans up the storm very well. It gives you some health back, but you still don't have a good answer for the belligerent. And
Well, Vigilant Giant's not a horrible thing to draw there. I don't think. I mean, does it keep him alive? The math is just too much for me. I'm going to be honest.
as of
It's been
right
a long
now,
day.
it does keep him alive because of the drain. You've got 10 in the field lane, and you essentially have 9 extra damage in hand, so you're going to be too short.
Oh, are we going for it? Oh man, we're going for Seducer Darkfire. I don't think there is a call here that... So he's calling 4, but the Ancano still represents unanswerable damage, right? So we still need to rely on a Prophecy here.
Yeah, I mean, I think calling 4 is correct because there's more sources in the deck.
Oh yeah,
but
but you can't call 4 and 8 with the same Darkfire, so you can't really prevent what's in Thuldir's hand. He just needs to decide whether this is the turn to go in. I think probably
I think you're
do.
kind of forced to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't have an answer for the Seducer, it's going to turn around and drain a bunch the following turn, so...
Doesn't look like we're going to see a Prophecy here.
Well,
get Tier
we are,
finally.
but it's going to be too little too late because it's not going to be something that gains life immediately. And Ancano is going to clean this up.
As it's done many times before.
We've seen it a lot today.
Yeah, Tier says he likes our odds, and Tier's just wrong. Thuldir goes up 2 games with the mid-range Battle Mage and knocks out Boomslife's Guildsworn, which he said was his most powerful deck. Boomslife is now down to his Ebonheart.
Yeah, and I do not like the matchup that this Ebonheart has against Battle Mage. It's interesting. We were kind of talking about how Battle Mage had faltered a bit today because people were coming in with a game plan to take on Battle Mage, but it's looked very strong in the finals.
Yeah, and we've only seen one other 3-0. This could be another chance here. You know, Thuldir, if anyone's well positioned, I think it's his Battle Mage in this matchup. Could actually see a 3-0 in the finals after 2 nail-biter semifinals.
Yeah, the Ebonheart just has a rough time dealing with these big threats, especially if it doesn't find its lethal pings. And you just kind of have to find the right part of the deck, find Skavens to get the wards off, rapid shots. But overall, I feel like Thuldir's pretty favored in this matchup.
Well, the players are going to waste no time. We are in it. This is match point for Thuldir. If he wins this, it's $20,000 and a trophy, which is probably even worth more than the $20,000.
Oh,
Look
absolutely.
Look that awesome. And the title of Master Series champion after coming very close last year in a 3rd place finish.
It's like I said, he performed very, very well last year with no notice, no sleep, and still put up that 3rd place. You're dealing with a well-rested, well-prepared Thuldir this time around, and it has shown. He has been a dominant force today.
When Thuldir actually hits the strength.
Yeah,
Haven't seen that a lot.
that's I think the first time today that he's hit the strength.
It's exciting. It puts it in Fell the Mighty Rage. Pretty fun.
For him, too, it's like the worst time because against Ebonheart, you want to hit the ward every single time, more or less, unless you're trying to activate a Mighty Conjuring. But the 5 damage is quite nice.
Now, with him attacking face here, I think we're going to see this Earththrone Spinner come down, and there it is. Just to deny the easy lethal trade into the 5-3.
We're just having a good old-fashioned Shadow Lane brawl. There's Fell the Mighty. That's actually the one Fell the Mighty in Boomslife's deck. So that's off the table for future removal for things that could be annoying, like Storm Atronach, Tel'Vos Magister. Gonna have to find different ways to clear those.
Yeah, Thuldir's gotta be pretty happy seeing that onto his 3-drop when his hand is as just mid-rangey as it is.
Yeah, the fact of the matter is Boomslife just can't keep taking 5 damage. 6 times of that and the game's over.
And he does opt to use that last ring charge. I was wondering whether or not he was going to take the risk of leaving the Breton Conjurer on the board for a turn to save the ring charge, because that meant Elfite Conjurer could come down the following turn, but,
This
decides I want immediate value.
looks so good for Thuldir too. Like Boomslife doesn't really have many options here, and he just drew the Sentinel Battle Mace. And it looks like Boomslife is actually going to play around that, not letting Battle Mace summon another Frost Atronach. We might see Thuldir go for it anyway, just to push damage, and because with the ring charges gone, there's really no other option in his hand except for an additional 4 damage. I kind of like it. I kinda like just pushing for extra
It's
damage.
got to hurt if you're Boomslife, because you want, in many ways, that Piss Mage to die so you can bring it back again with Necromancer.
A full grip of cards that cost way more than 7 magic a total. Shadow Shift is quite nice here, though.
Shift and has Alvalathi with the Quicksilver crossbow as well to get rid of more creatures too.
You know what'd be good here? A Sorcerer's Negation.
I was thinking a curse.
That too. That's a lot more realistic.
Hey, if he Karakon the deck, he would have the curse right now.
I'll scout ahead.
Sly Marshblade, isn't it? Ungolem still isn't it?
Boomslife knows he's on his back foot, and you know we had talked about it. This Ebonheart list just does not feel favored against Battle Mage, and we're seeing why. These warded creatures, these big bodies, are a bit of a problem. Yes, you've got your lethal pings, but in this case, right? Like, what do you do against Breton Conjurer? If you ping it, you're just giving him more gas.
Yeah, and then now it's not even just Breton Conjurer. We're on that really critical turn 6. Alfie Conjurer is live because of the previous Frost Atronach. So at the end of this turn, it looks like if he goes for that, he could be staring down a 5-1, a 5-5, 3-4, and a Storm
I was going to say, I think he's going to take the Cradle Crush over the Elfique. You clear the path, you get him down to 4, you make a 5-5 on top of it, and with Belligerent Giant in hand, if he doesn't clear the entire board here, like with a Rage, then you just win.
And on top of that, you just could top deck Bolt too. Just putting someone down to 4 health, especially in Ebonheart, there is drain, but it is limited amounts.
So right now, Boomslife does have the option to play 2 guards here.
Speaking of drain, though, every little bit helps.
Of the living.
So he does put down the Barrow Stalker now.
One lightning bolt away from victory.
Does not find it yet.
So both of these guards can be easily dealt with. Obviously, Barrow Stalker is not going to stick around because keeping Boomslife at 4 is quite nice.
Yeah, so in this particular scenario, I would fully expect to see Elfique come down just because you want the breakthrough. You want to be able to say, okay, I can push over any guards you put down.
Yeah, you don't get the loser combo if you go for it right now, but still, it's a really solid development on the board. And Boomslife has both the Flesh Atronachs and a fork in his hand. Those are no help whatsoever. He might just have to play guard and hope that Thuldir doesn't have Belligerent Giant.
Boomslife finds Brynjolf. That's a big source of drain, but it might be too little too late right now, as he does not have a great way to deal with that field lane.
Necromancer into a guard, summoning another guard. It's still not going to be enough as far as I can tell.
No, the Belligerent Giant represents lethal in many, many ways here.
Boomslife trying desperately to stay in this match.
Yeah, it's the only play that he has, but unfortunately it is not going to be enough.
Here comes Alfie Conjurer, can deal with the 1-2 with ease. Belligerent Giant's going to come down, bounce the Thorn Hiss Mage back, and Storm Atronach's going to solidify a 3-0.
Yeah, in the finals, Thuldir
for Thuldir.
wins emphatically. We heard a lot of players today say, I am afraid of Thuldir.
Yeah.
This is why.
He made that look almost way too easy for the Grand Finals. That was just a 3-0 Battle Mage Masterclass.
Yeah, that looked like an afternoon, you know, show match between two friends. Nothing with this kind of money on the line. He flawlessly navigated that.
Yeah, that was epic to see. You can see Boomslife not even really upset. He got a great second place finish, had a fantastic run throughout the qualifiers and this tournament. And it just came down to Battle Mage doing Battle Mage stuff. Silverfuse, were you surprised at all about that? Or?
I wasn't expecting a 3-0. I was expecting a 3-2, really close, but Thuldir, I mean, amazing pilot at decks, great deck builder, always been consistent. So it doesn't surprise me that he took this tournament today.
Yeah, and we mentioned a little bit the Battle Mage kind of underperformed to some people's expectations. Well, if it's going to perform at any time, it's the Grand Finals when there's an additional $10,000 on the line.
So I have a question for you two. Do you think that Boomslife might regret banning the Empire? Like, I know that it performed very well. It went undefeated. But if you would have said to him at the start of the tournament, what do you ban against Thuldir? I doubt he would have picked Empire. His decision was very clearly influenced by the way it performed throughout the day. Do you think he's going to regret that looking back?
I personally don't think he would. I mean, Thuldir brought an overall very strong lineup, and you couldn't really go wrong banning any of them. You could make reasons to ban the Guildsworn or the mid-battle mage, so it's really hard to say, like, oh, if I would have banned that, then maybe I would have won the tournament. You could really say that with any deck that Thuldir brought today, so I don't think I would regret it.
Well,
yeah, a lot of strong decks, and what are you going to say?
Now, it sounds like they're ready for the stage interview, so I think we're actually going to get to hear from the finals champion himself.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me present to you your Elder Scrolls Legends Master Series winner, Thuldir! You did it, man. You are our champion. You came from top 4 last year, beating Boomslife in the finals of the first qualifier, and then meeting him again today. How does it feel?
I'm missing the words. It's really unbelievable. I think you've heard the story several times already, but yeah, Bo and I told us, let's meet in the finals. We said it before the very first qualifier, and we did it. And we said it today again, and we did it again.
Yeah, everyone was saying over the last few days, Thuldir's the person to be afraid of. Thuldir's the favorite. Thuldir is so good at this game. You showed today they had reason to be afraid. You played so very, very well. Man, it must feel amazing. Was there any particular highlights that you're going to remember after today?
Obviously, the reverse sweep against QuakeCon. I don't think I will ever forget this day.
So we were mentioning on the caster desk, because the Empire got banned in the finals, that deck went undefeated all day. You never lost on that Empire deck. Where did that idea come from to bring Empire aggro?
The other 3 decks, I was quite sure I would bring those from the very beginning, since the day I qualified. And then I was looking for a 4th deck, and with my lineup, with 2 more controlling decks in Battle Mage and Guildstorm, and 1 aggro deck with Halalu, I didn't want to be weak to a ban. If someone is good against Battle Mage and Guildstorm, against these slower controlling low mid-range curve decks, then I didn't want to be weak to a ban, and I was mostly looking for a second aggro deck because of that. And yeah, I did some testing, and Empire worked the best for me in testing, and that's why I brought it.
Sounds great to me. Well, any final words before we hand you your trophy?
I'd like to thank my testing team, the listeners, in particular Fierce Infinity and Jelly, who have been incredible with their support. And yeah, thanks very much. Also everyone else.
Absolutely. Well, let's see if we can get TDC Jason to present you the trophy. Congratulations, Thuldir. We are going to hand it back to the casting desk now for just a minute.